Hello and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to showcase using PS2 Linux as a PC-DC server to allow a Sega Dreamcast console to connect to the internet via kind of a spoofed dial-up connection. I'm going to show two different ways of how to do that, and the game of choice that we're going to use for that is going to be the Shenmue Passport. Now, full disclosure, I'm not going to use the newer modern setup of Shenmue Passport, where the content is actually available. I'll just be connecting to the internet, and then I'll just kind of show that the passport is essentially empty, just because all of those servers are long gone and long dead. So of course we're just going to boot up PS2 Linux first. That's straightforward. We're going to use the default 2.2.1 kernel for this. The reason is just because the first scenario that I'm going to show you would work with either the 2.2.1 or the 2.2.19 kernel. And then the second scenario only works with 2.2.1. I'll get into that when I get there. It's also been my experience that this does not work at all with the 2.4 kernel that I've used in some of my other videos. So anyway, let's just go ahead and boot up PS2 Linux. We'll do the 2.2.1 kernel, and once we get in there, we'll get started. Okay, so unfortunately, I've reached my maximum count um, for booting up and checking the hard disk volume. So this will just take a minute. We'll just sit here and wait for this to finish. All right, and I actually am going to require multiple terminals to do this procedure that I'm about to do. So I'm actually going to just SSH in to PS2 Linux again, and I will just open up a couple additional terminals here, and we can just follow along. I'm going to do one of them directly on the console itself, and then the other one I will do, and then the other two I will do in SSH Windows. So this one's going to be really straightforward, so I can make it really small. This guy be a little bigger. All right. So first and foremost, I'll just go ahead and log in directly here. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start up the mgetty process. Um, that's pretty standard as far as any PC-DC server setup goes. Really, the setup that I have here is not any different than on just a normal computer. It just happens to be, PS2 Linux, which is kind of a computer in itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start up the mgetty process. And all of these commands that I'm going to run have to be run with super user privileges. Um, Before I start this up, I have a kernel module that I have to load. So the first one we're going to be doing this with is we're going to be doing this with a USB modem here, and there's a kernel module that you need to load in order to get that working. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load that guy up. So let's do, and it's just called the ACM module. Okay, so that loaded that module. And then you can see down here that it was registered. And then when I go ahead and plug this in, if I check the output a second time, yeah, so then, and it says that TTY ACM0, a new ACM device was registered. So that's the device that I'm going to be using for this. So now I'll go ahead and start the mgetty process. And I'm going to use TTY ACM0 like the one that showed up in the command output just a second ago. Okay, so this is going to be all right, and this command is not going to output anything. It's just going to sit here like this. What I'm going to do in this terminal over here is I'm actually going to watch the So in this one, I'm going to watch the log file for the mgetty process, and we'll be able to actually kind of see the dial-up connection as it goes through. So then we got ACM0. Okay, so this is just sitting here waiting for a connection. And then this one here, I'm going to type this command out, but I'm not actually going to execute it until it's time. So we're just going to do that here. In the meantime, I'm going to turn on the Shenmue Passport disk, and we'll go from there. One additional thing I was going to point out is that I am using a line voltage inducer here as required for this setup. Okay, going to start our file here. And ultimately, I'm going to start the dialing process, and then shortly after that, I'm going to execute this command over here, and that will actually trick the line into answering, and the connection will initiate. Sound just for a second, but as you can see, the connection has now been tricked into starting, and it'll start up fully in a minute. And as you can see up at the top here, it's now green, meaning that the connection is live. But of course, these servers don't have anything on them because they're very, very old and long gone. So if we try to go to anything, you'll just get an error. Okay. But again, the connection is actually live. So I'm going to go ahead and close the connection, and we're going to do it one other way. All right, so ultimately, the other option as far as getting this to work is you actually can use the PlayStation 2's network adapter itself. If you're in North America, if you have one that has the dial-up connection in it, you actually can use that. So I'm going to go ahead and move this cable connection over to the network adapter in the back here. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and as I mentioned earlier, I mentioned about how one of the setups I was going to show you was only going to work in the 2.2.1 kernel. So the setup I just showed you with the USB modem, that will actually work in 2.2.1 and 2.2.19. It will work on both the release Linux kit and also the beta Linux kit, because the Japanese consoles don't have the dial-up connection, but they can use the USB modem connection just fine. Now this one I'm going to show you where we're using the North American where we're using the North American network adapter. This will only work in 2.2.1, and the reason for that is because there is code out there for the dial-up modem within the North American network adapter, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to compile correctly, and luckily someone a long time ago pre-compiled it and posted it, and that's the one that I'm going to use here. So anyway, the file it's just the serial.o module file, and we're just going to go ahead and load that. I have it right here. Okay, and then if we look at the output, we see this here. This device was registered, and see the serial driver was registered. Our device name is actually going to be TTYS0. I think this was a mistake in the code that there's 2 zeros here. The device name actually only has 1 0 in it. So now we can watch our file again, and we're gonna try this out one more time. So here, let's get some space here. And we're going to run the same mgetty command here, except we're just going to change the device name right here. Okay. All right. So the process has started up. It's waiting for a connection. And then we're just going to queue up this command as well. And we will execute it when it's time. So I'm going to go ahead and start the dialing process again. And I'll show you that this works as well. Okay, and again, the connection initiated here, and in a minute it'll turn green, and again, we are now connected. But same old thing, can't get to anything here because all the servers are gone. So, same error message here. I'll just make a note again that there are much simpler ways of getting a PC-DC server set up than this crazy PS2 Linux setup. This is more a we do it because we can, not because we should type of scenario. Again, there are much simpler ways to go about this, but I thought it was pretty cool that this works with pretty minimal setup. And I will link some additional I will link some pages of my own about how to get this set up on PS2 Linux. But other than that, thank you for watching.